Hello everyone, and welcome to another installment of the Sound of Bryn Mawr, formerly known as Dan's Vinyl Corner. I am Dan here in beautiful Bryn Mawr, Pennsylvania, and we are here to bring you the top 10 records of 2022. I figured I could do a top 10 records of fall video, or a top 10 jazz of 2022, or a top 10 rock of 2022, or some permutation of those things. But I figured to avoid any redundancy, we would just get straight to it and give you the top 10 of 2022 because we don't like to waste people's time over here. So let's get to it. We're looking at, coming in at number 10, Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon. Now, with this record, I really wanted to convey the journey that we went on to find the best copy. And what I'm looking at over here, what you're dealing with over here, is the 30th anniversary edition from 2003 that was mastered by Kevin Gray and by Doug Sax. And this copy is done off the original master tape. The bass sounds amazing. It's the best bass of any copy of Dark Side of the Moon I've ever heard. They really goose that up. And ultimately what it is an EQ version of the master tape that has no high end on it because there was no high end left on the master tape at the time they made it because the album had been done to death. So then I said, what if you get like an audiophile version of the album that was done slightly earlier? And that one I had to order online, the 2003, because I thought that would be kind of one and done, as it were. But it wasn't. Then I went, hunting for a while. I eventually found multiple copies. Only bought one of them, the very cleanest one I saw. I held out for a clean one. That's the Mobile Fidelity, original Mobile Fidelity pressing, I believe, from 1979. 6 years after the original release, Dark Side of the Moon on the white black label there. That one. This is my standard listening copy of Dark Side of the Moon. The vinyl is incredibly quiet. There are incredible dynamics. It is basically an EQ version of the original master tape, which is real goosed up in the high end. This is a real good kind of record that you're seeing right here. And it is only to be surpassed by pressings that were extremely early with absolutely no adulteration. And this is coming in at number 10. This is the official number 10 right here. Is a UK A3B3 that I found down in Baltimore, Maryland area on the way to visit a friend of mine in DC. This is a second UK pressing of Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd. And has a few hairlines on it. Sounds perfect. We were very lucky to stumble upon this pressing in such good shape at a very reasonable price for such a thing, especially here in the States. This is one of those pressings I had just completely written off because I thought that it was not possible to find such a thing here in the States other than getting scalped on Discogs or possibly paying international shipping or, taking an international flight to the UK. But this really, I have heard things on Time or on Money or on Any Color You Like, Breathe in the Air, that I've never heard on any copy of this record. The detail is really superior. This is something that I take out when I want to hear this album in a really special way. The jacket is a little bit, you can see there, the jacket is a little bit ring worn, but it still has the original sticker, and the vinyl itself is a really strong VG+. Really glad to have that one and to have such a nice lineup of pressings to hear the album in any way you like. Coming in at number 9 is an album that is a personal and sentimental favorite of mine that I listen to every weekend, and it's one of the few albums that I know all the lyrics to. If I had to say of all the albums on this list, some album that is my personal favorite, this one I've really elevated it because it is such a personal favorite of mine. And that is the Velvet Underground's Loaded. Now, for this one, I do want to show a few versions of this pressing over here, which I believe, again, are really descriptive of my journey with the record. So, first thing I did is I looked on the forums, and people said you want to get the 1977 specialty pressing on the Raspberry Cotillion label. This one pressed up in Scranton area. And I was told it's a real good pressing. And, it had some good clarity to it, but empirically one wants to explore. Can I find that there is indeed a better pressing than this? This is a bit far removed from the original release 7 years prior. Being the Velvet Underground fan that I am, I then found a pressing, which I believe is from 1974, which has the 75 rock address on it. This one is still in the shrink wrap. It's a press-wall pressing. Absolutely great pressing. This one is de facto my listening copy of the album because it is near mint in all respects. And it does have a great detail and a great sound to it. One of my favorite rock songs ever, Sweet Nothing is on here. I Found a Reason is a song I love to sing along to, semi-ironically, as it were. You got Who Loves the Sun, the whole record. I talked about this like 50 times on this channel. This is a real good record. And then what you got is you got some other versions which I found that are even a little better. I said it in another video. If you find an earlier pressing, I showed this one. This one is a Presswell pressing, which has PRP. It's got the second P in the matrix on both sides, and that's a sign of an original matrix. This one has the 75 rock address, so that indicates to me it was probably pressed in 1973 to 74. But still, at that time, they must have been using the original metalwork, and it does have a whole other analog, tubey, kind of smeary level to the sound, which gives a really nice nostalgic vibe that this record really resonates well with. And then my absolutely ultimate favorite copy of this record, and the cheapest copy that I got, no less, all found in 2022. And this one was found in person as well, as were the still shrink wrap version and the OG. The Raspberry Cotillion I had to order online, but this one was really cool find, and I freaked out when I found this. This one, as you can see by somebody tore off the sticker there, this is a white label promo of Velvet Underground Loaded right over there. And this one I think was issued as a DJ Advance copy, as indicated by the crossout right there. This is Al Brown mastering, so it's not the standard mastering. Al Brown was one of the Atlantic engineers who mastered a lot of rock albums that came out on Atlantic. I strongly recommend this white label promo to everybody, and this is my number one pressing of this record because it sounds so fresh, so strong, it sounds so good, and that's really just a dream find right there. This is a record that I will die with right here. Then you're going on to number 8. Okay, that's the Sidewinder. That's Lee Morgan. People don't have to be a genius to know that in 2020, late 2020 no less, they did this on the Blue Note Classic series, courtesy Kevin Gray on the mastering. And then this year I was over selling some records. I was up at Double Decker looking at the 45, selling some records, and I saw, they got the original pressing on Blue Note. That's a mono. And I said, I'm going to pick that up, sell some records, pick that up. You know what it is. So I picked that up. It's got a whole other presence, directness to the sound. Absolutely leaves the Kevin Gray in the dust. Like almost every one. You got to get the OG, the Sidewinder. That's a real rare one right there. I really like that. And it's not, if you look at Discogs, the number of people that have versus want a record is it will give you a very rough sense. There are Blue Notes that are a lot rarer than this, according to that metric. Let me put it that way. So if you find this record, or if you're looking to find this record, I should say, it's a very feasible thing to do. Keep an eye out. Have some records ready to sell. You're going to find it, and it's going to be real beautiful. This one has not a scratch on it. And this is like rock and roll before rock and roll right here. Great stuff. That's number 8. Number 7 is a record I only got one copy of because I sold the OJC when I got this. This is the first UK pressing of Waltz for Debbie by the Bill Evans Trio. And you can see it has the EU label there, EU rights. This is one that was not well documented on Discogs. I had to add to some of the information on Discogs. But you'll see it is a Phillips pressing, a lot like the Vertigo pressings where it has an upside down triangle. It's all laser etch pressing. Looks like a phono disc pressing. And has the country code for the UK 420 in there. This one, I heard a lot of polemic conversation on the internet about what do these early Bill Evans pressings sound like, but I'm happy to inform you they have an absolutely crisp, clear, and slick audiophile sound to them. And people say that the European versions are not too different from the domestic versions. This one, has been absolutely a thrill to listen to. My favorite tracks being Some Other Time and probably the Waltz for Debbie, self-titled. Sounds easily on par with or better than any modern recording that's marketed as audiophile in my collection. If you can find any of the OG Bill Evans survivors, I suggest you do it. Okay. Now we're getting on to number 6. This is a record that took me on a real journey. This has been my favorite Led Zeppelin record since I was in 4th grade. Okay? So I originally found what I believe to be a third Japanese pressing. This is a P10106A. Yes, it is. This one has amazing clarity of sound, amazing pressing quality. The mandolins and strings sound so nice. Side 2, which is one thing that I love so much. Let's see if we can get the camera to focus. Side 2, which is one thing that I love so much about these Led Zeppelin 3. Comes through beautifully on this. But side 1, the rock and roll doesn't have punch. Okay? So then I said, I'm going to look for a US pressing. I want to find it on ATGP both sides. Just like you know your stuff. I mean, you know, you're going to look for ATGP on both sides, any Led Zeppelin record. So I found ATGP on both sides. Sounds great. 1977 specialty pressing. Real cheap. You're looking to bargain copy this record. This is the way to go right here. Meanwhile, every day I was going on eBay and I was searching. Could I find the Led Zeppelin 3 TG with the red label from Canada? Because people were like, you know, flipping out on the internet about this pressing. Like, you know, this pressing right here sounds really good. It sounds like a first US pressing of pretty much any other GP cut of pretty much any other Led Zeppelin album. But maybe it's a little overrated. You know what I mean? Maybe it's a little overrated. And people were saying that another notable pressing was the first Japanese. And really, I never say this, but the first Japanese of this record had a real great sound to it. And this one, the first Japanese, the pink obi, which I picked up after I liquidated a bunch of records, this is the best Led Zeppelin 3, and this is the one I'm putting in as my best find. What did we say? 10, 9, 8, 7. This is the number 6 position, right? A 2022 right here. 1970 original pressing with the blue and green label and the intact pink obi. This pressing is a middle of the road VG Plus right here, and it just has such a piercing and poignant sound that fills the room and which jumps out at you. And I have never quite heard the record like this before, and it is like hearing it in a new way because it has all of the clarity of the third Led Zeppelin pressing on side 2 with all of the rawness of the US and Canada pressing on side 1, and then it's just elevated a whole other level because it's new. If you're seeing these older Atlantic pressings of Led Zeppelin records that were pressed in Japan with the blue and green label before they started using the red and green label and selling out, then you should get them. At least if this is any indication, because these things are worthwhile. And now coming in at number 5 is Miles Davis Kind of Blue. Again, these records, I try to pick records that took me on a journey. And this Kind of Blue. Last year, I got the mono. This is the RKS Sterling mono that was mastered off of some 3-track safety tape. It sounds pretty good. But the thing is, at that time last year, I got the Mobile Fidelity, which I sold because they're frauds. And when I got that Mobile Fidelity, I said, that's a stereo, and if I press the mono button, you know, or if I listen to it on a mono system, it sounds pretty much identical to this one. They sound very, very similar. And that got me thinking, well, you know, people make such a hype about this album that there got to be better pressings out there. And sure enough, there were. So then I just find sitting in the bins at some stores in South Philadelphia, you know, and on the boulevard, all this type of stuff. You find some different pressings, okay? So let me try to... Yeah, this one is a 1971 stereo of Miles Davis. A lot of people, there's like Better Records and those websites, you know, that do the shootouts with like 50 different copies of the same record, that say this one is a real famous copy of this record, preferred copy, because it was recorded on a tube system, mastered on solid state, so people says it's got the best of both worlds. Same with the 1977, which is just a bit more far removed. These are both near min in the shrink wrap, okay? That's what you're dealing with over here. Then you've got the best copy that I found the whole year up in Summit, New Jersey. And this one over here has got... Whoever had this took such good care of it. This is a 1959 mono. It still has the 2 tracks flipped. I don't know if you can see this. I'm going to commit the cardinal sin and take it out on camera right here and show you. Because this one's got the 2 tracks flipped. And Flamenco Sketches is number 1 and All Blues is number 2. And they got all the different misprints that anybody's looking for that exist on all the later records anyway that don't mean anything. And this is not a first, but this is an extremely, extremely early 1959 mono of this record. And the sound on that and the freshness on that is absolutely unparalleled. This is excellent condition. You know, I said before, the quest for Miles Davis is over. I still don't know now, knowing what I know now, that the quest for Miles Davis is over. But that's the number 5 find of 2022. Anyway, Then we go to number 4. Princeton, New Jersey. Funkadelic. Maggot Brain. On that blue 1975 Westbound label, purchased by 20th Century Fox. I was told this was a very good record. I was told to pick it up. I was told that this is a very, very collectible record by some people. And what did I do? I listened to it, I picked it up, and then what do? I find the first pressing. If I'm not mistaken, this one's a Pittman, New Jersey, right over here. And that one, you know, it's got more freshness to the sound. I would say neither of these are exactly audiophile in quality, but I mean you're listening to a real good record, and this one was definitely mastered with more love and care, and it has a lot of ambiance, a lot of soundstage that's not on the 1975. This is a VG plus, weak VG plus, very occasional surface noise. Everybody knows this was a big party record, and for good reason too. And Hit It and Quit It is just one of my whole favorite songs to listen to all of 2022. So there you go. And now we're getting to the real heavy hitters, the top 3. So let's get to it over here. We're talking Led Zeppelin 2 right here. Led Zeppelin 2 early this year got the RL Presswell Led Zeppelin 2. And I bought this on the internet. I had to pony up for this. And probably foolishly so. It's, perfect jacket. And this is a lifetime copy of Led Zeppelin 2 right here. But it's only RL SS on side 2. And side 1 is only RL without the SS. And so, out of my morbid curiosity, I had to know. What happens if you have the RLSS on both sides? And what happens if it's a Monarch, which people say it sounds better? And it's not something that I was going to make a concerted effort to find. But if I saw it, I was going to pick it up. And what do you know? I saw it in quarter 4 of 2022. And there it is, with the gold sticker on it. Near mint jacket, near mint record. RLSS on both sides. Monarch, that's what we're talking about. A whole other level of clarity. You can hear Robert Plant's vocalizations in the background when you got John Bonham banging on the drums as hard as he can. And then, I'm lost for words. And just to see if this was really worth the hype once you got this, I also found a George Piros SD8236 early pressing, and I again concluded that this really is 80 to 85% of what you're going to see on the RL. Whether it's SD8236 or whether it's SD19127, you really want to look for the RL anyway. Otherwise, you really are missing out. Anybody who tells you differently is just coping. Okay. Then you're gonna get to number 2. Number 2 is a Velvet Underground and Nico. The Half-Speed Master, Abbey Road Half-Speed Master. Really not a bad copy of this record. I mean, if you're looking for a bargain copy of this record, you don't want to be ponying up, paying a lot of money, just get this. It's really not that bad. If you're willing to pay a little more, then you go ahead, you get the budget versions, releasing the Sound Saver hype sticker with the black and silver Verve label from the 1970s. Those are really nice pressings of this record, but the mastering is a little inconsistent. The tracks vacillate between mono and stereo. Although it's no peelable banana, it's a single sleeve, not a gatefold, if that means anything to you. Then you start to explore the early pressings. I personally don't want to pay for the Emerson Torso or the Lawsuit Threat sticker, and I'm not going to go out of my way to find those. So I was just saying, what if I find 1968 pressings, all these Velvet Underground pressings, this in-person stuff, you know? I'm finding that, I'm digging, I'm finding it. You know what it is. So that's 1968, that's an unpeeled banana, and what I really just want to know is, do you prefer your banana to be peeled or unpeeled? Because then I found the mono. This is a 1968 mono with an unpeeled banana, and you can see, this one, the record is VG to VG plus. This one we're talking excellent condition. No scratches which are not visible under bright light. No surface noise on either side on playback. The absolute superior Velvet Underground experience. Jacket is VG due to writing of initials, but this is a really rare record and one I only found a few days ago. I don't even know, the amount of head banging and nodding I've done to this record is insane. And I like Loaded more than this record, honestly, but just the way this resonated with me, and also just the pure collectability and rarity. We're really lucky to have this record come to us in this condition, you know? So, you know, that's what it is right here. Velvet Underground, mono, 1968 pressing, unpeeled banana, excellent condition record, gorgeous, 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 rainbow sheen, number 2. we're talking songs like I'm Waiting for My Man, and you know, any other copy of that record, I'm listening to it. I probably heard that song 400 times. But now I'm listening to the story of a guy waiting to his man with $26 in his hand, and I'm ready to hear what it comes next with the man with the straw hat, wearing all black. You know what it is. So that's number 2. And because we don't like to waste no people's time around here, we're getting right to number 1. How about that? And number 1 is a real special record. This is my very favorite record of all time. And you're hearing all kind of noise over here because I'm sitting in a folding huge chair. And what we got is My Journey through John Coltrane's Love Supreme, the best album ever. And this album right here, this acoustic sounds version, which is going to be a perfectly good version. Then you go digging. You say, well, people want to find the OGs because, you know, early this year I was finding all type of John Coltrane ballads, John Coltrane impressions, OGs for real cheap. And they had this amazing resonant sound. You could not just hear the record, but you could hear the room in which the record was recorded. You could hear the resonance. It was like John Coltrane playing to you in some type of smoky room or something. And so I said, well, I got to find all the OGs. So then I went, and I had to get them labeled. I labeled. This is a VG right here. I found the John Coltrane Stereo AS77 Love Supreme. That one is a VG because of some background crackle during the bass solo and during A1. But I just felt the emotional rawness of his saxophone and the emotional rawness of Elvin Jones' drums in a whole new way. And I said, well, I got to find a real clean press in this one. So people said, well, you know, you go reading on the forums and they're misguided people and they tell you, well, you got to go and find the 1968 stereo because even though it doesn't have the original Impulse label, like actually the stereo panning is a little bit better, so you go and find that one, you know what I mean? And it's, you know, it's near mint and, you know, you're having a good time. It sounds really good, but it lacks the emotional rawness of the original stereo. So then you go hunting for an excellent to near mint condition stereo, VG Plus stereo, whatever have you. And you find that, the VG Plus stereo. Yeah, that's a VG Plus stereo right there. And that one is great. The jacket, you know, there's Coltrane. They all like that. And then you say, well, every time that I play this record, however you really do it, it gets really wonky. Because I'm just going to, you know, you come to your senses and you realize you want to get a, you know, proper integrated amplifier that has a mono setting. And you listen to the record in mono every time anyway. And then when you take a stereo record and you put it in mono, the bass isn't very present. And the drums, they don't really punch the same. And Coltrane saxophone is kind of hot, but you're like, what if it was even hotter, you know? Because this is not just any album in your collection. This is the best album ever made. So you say, what if I got the mono A77 John Coltrane Love Supreme right here? And this is a #1 find. And this, Merry Christmas, is a Christmas present right here for my family and loved ones. Because I could not find it. Any other record that you're seeing here today, save the Led Zeppelin 3, was found in person. This one was a Christmas present, so I guess found in person. I have no idea where anybody found it. But oh my God, the John Coltrane Love Supreme mono pressing. Not a scratch on it. Oh my God. And the bass and the drums are so present. And I said, Mamma Mia, that's such a good record. And I hope you all enjoyed this video. And we're going to come with you soon to tell you about some more good records because I want to go deeper and look at the best 10 rock records and best 10 jazz records, including some records you saw this video and even more that we found in 2022 because it was an absolutely transformative year for the collection, absolutely transformative year for the channel. Thank you everybody for subscribing. Talk to us on the channel. Talk to us on Instagram. Leave your comments. We love hearing from you. And whether you got, you know, all different type of pressings, keep spinning those records. Keep playing your music. And this has been The Sound of Bryn Mawr. Thank you so much. Thank you.